All right, so maybe a few days late, we we got stuck traveling home, and then I got COVID, and so now here we are a few days later talking about the finale of the Race to World First, which honestly was uh, quite a close race in the end, even though there were some things that ended up happening. Yeah.
Yeah, there were some wild things that happened. So those of you that are like watching this in the future as like a recap thing, you're watching through all of these in sequence. There's this big time jump. The last episode we recorded was like right when they had just discovered that there was a secret phase.
Yes.
Echo ended up killing it the next day, using the entire day to prog that secret phase. And they discovered that the boss doesn't need to heal all the way up to 24.4. And in fact, it would heal higher if it didn't have some passive Mortal Strike effects on it. But you could put an even stronger Mortal Strike effect on it and have it only heal up to 19%. And then they do
Yeah.
that secret phase. A lot of the data mine mechanics were true. A couple of other things about it were the Torment AoE spawned Defile puddles in that phase also, which is really cool looking.
So basically, one of the biggest changes is that Echo started then bloodlusting phase one to be able to get a double lust on the fight. And in addition to that, they swapped one of their Fury Warriors. Actually, they swapped a Moonkin to an Arms Warrior even. And then they just, like Dratno said, had that 50% Mortal Strike effect on the Jailer. Didn't allow him to heal. They were trying to, they were basically burning the boss. And some of these mechanics in the last phase and the overlaps are quite scary.
Yeah, the hardest one is the death sentence that we were talking about. You know,
Yeah.
the jailer applies it to one person, then you got to dispel it, and then you dispel it the 2 onto 4, and then there at the end you can see dispelling 4 onto 8. Echo are the only guilds to have ever actually done this dispel of 4 onto 8. And I mean, it is actually quite tough to coordinate. If the fight went on for another 30 seconds, you'd have to do 8 into 16, which I don't know how you could ever coordinate that, but you need to soak every single one or else it's a raid wipe. So,
I mean, they did that 4
crazy.
to 8 approximately one time.
Once, and then they killed the boss. Yeah.
And then the boss died. Yeah. So that was definitely a thing. Then after that, since there has been a time jump, we have the top 5 guilds solidified. So Echo ended up being first, and surprisingly, Method ended up in second, right?
Yeah. 3 days after Echo killed for world first, Method did, but that was still, I think, in the same reset, which is definitely definitely quite impressive.
And then we had Skyline.
Yeah, Skyline.
Same reset as well.
In third from China, so great result for that guild and for the region. And then SK Pieces and Liquid rounding out our top 5, and we've had Aster joining as 6th yesterday. So that is currently what our top ranks look like. And I mean, obviously, the most surprising thing about this is Liquid not in the top 2, right? Liquid,
yeah.
Before this race, I'm pretty sure I put the chances of either Liquid or Echo not making it into top 2 at less than 1%, and it happened. So either it was very unlikely or my prediction was bad, but I think it was very unlikely.
You know what's kind of funny? I'm pretty sure, not in the last episode, but the episode before that, you gave Liquid a 60-40 chance to still win the race.
I thought they were, I mean, they were in the lead a couple of, like on, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday of the last ID, and then they ended up having like a couple days of absolutely no prog. Things sort of fell off. They stopped raiding right before Echo killed the boss and didn't raid again for a couple days. And yeah, I mean, the whole guild progress sort of ground to a halt for them, and that gave Method, Skyline, and Pieces the time that they needed to sneak on in and take second, third, and fourth. Although, to my knowledge, every single guild except for Echo has used an even better strategy than Mortal Strike to reduce the Jailer's health.
So there's been I will call it a very interesting interaction. That whenever we were talking about the secret phase, the boss will channel that heal. However, there are some ways that you can avoid the boss channeling the heal altogether if you use Mirrors of Torment on the boss. And you have to use it before if you use on the boss and he melees one singular time right before he phases, he'll have that Mirrors of Torment buff on him, and the Mirrors of Torment will silence the boss's cast. You can see it in this clip that we're looking at here from Liquid. The boss has Mirrors of Torment on him, and the moment that he's supposed to start channeling his cast is right there, and you see that he's not healing. He's stuck at 11% HP. He doesn't get that shield or anything.
Yeah,
And so
if you go to this is twitch.tv/ I'm fired up. If you go to his clips, you can watch some of him just actually explaining how this all works. But basically, yeah, you're setting it up so that you're synchronizing the swing timer and the push time so that
yep.
it's perfectly timed, such that the boss has that silence and cannot shield itself. Which it's
Oh, you
interesting
know.
because Mirrors of Torment, apparently it can kind of break through all sorts of things that shouldn't be silenceable by any other means, but it's not just the jailer, right? You can do it on some other raid bosses even, and you can do it in like PvP. Resto Druid immune tranking can be stopped by Mirrors of Torment silence. So uh I mean it's so weird, but I don't know. I mean, if Mortal
Do
Strike reduces healing, if that's what it says on Mortal Strike, and that reduces the boss's healing, and Mirrors of Torment silences, and the boss got silenced, and that's what it says on the tooltip, who's to say?
obviously not really relevant to what we think. Is this an exploit though?
Yeah, I mean, these are the kind of questions that ultimately it's up to Blizzard to choose on each thing. At this point, given that Method, Skyline, SKP, I'm actually not 100% sure if Skyline and Aster use this, but I'm fairly sure. Method, Skyline, SK Pieces, Liquid, and Aster have all, I think, used this. Um, the only one, I think the only, like at this point, I don't think they can or should do anything about it. I think they basically have decided already that it's allowed whenever they
Yeah.
didn't, put a flag on the field and stop it after Method did it. But the thing is, so Method killed it, and they feigned ignorance about how it happened as well.
Yeah.
There were some tweets like, "Oh, we don't know how it happened. We're sad. We're as sad as everybody else." Which the timing of Mirrors of Torment is quite precise, and they've had it happen on some of their progression pulls as well. So, I don't know. It's definitely it's some good popcorn for sure.
It's one of those things that I'm pretty sure if that boss got killed world first, with
Right.
that, I'm pretty sure Blizzard would have done something. By the way,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just feel like their hands are tied or something. But I think if I was Blizzard, I would be like the two courses of action I'd be considering are either A, do nothing. I'd probably just lean towards that, just let it go through. Or B, I think the only guild you could really take action against would be Method because once they've done it and other guilds replicate it, I
yeah.
mean
The
that's
the
just got to be allowed, right?
the problem with this is like there's not much precedence for like blatantly exploiting bosses. The last time we had like blatantly exploiting bosses was back in Legion, and Trial of Valor, Helya got exploited, and then by one guild, Star Augur kind of got exploited. Um, like for Helya, they bricked the breath to make sure the boss didn't do many guilds, not just. When I say they, there was like
Right.
4 guilds that got.
Now the sequence of
fully
this was
banned
pretty
for
rough
this.
as well because this was one where it was like, oh, 3 guilds have done this at the time limit, which is now Liquid, thought it was safe to do because of that, right? Then they did it and then banned. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
think that's the
they only
worst
got a
thing to do
7 day.
is like,
They got a 7 day to get the cutting edge revoked.
yeah. I don't know. I think that it's important to have if you're going to not allow something like this, it needs to be done swiftly, and you need to make sure there's no confusion because if you're in a spot where another guild has killed using a strategy like this, you should know that it's safe to do, or you should see like, oh, they got banned for that. We do not want to do that. Right.
Now, more often than not, most guilds will just like they have some contacts in Blizzard
Right.
across the Race to World First where they can DM them and be like, "Hey, is this a strategy that falls in the lines of like we won't get banned for using?" And then like conversely, they'll just like DM devs and be like, "Yo, we noticed that this was bugged. Is there any chance that you can fix this?" And so there's kind of like there's a good sync between the two where it currently stands, where most guilds probably won't exploit a boss to the point where they're willing to get banned. And if it's clever use of game mechanics, they'll get it like pre-approved in advance.
Yeah, sometimes we see a little bit of playing the referee though, where it's like, if you DM the devs and you say something like, hey, the boss is only healing to 11%, can we still kill it like this? Versus, hey, we are forcing the boss by using Mirrors of Torment to only heal to 11%, right? You might get a different response. We saw something with this where during the Plague Borer drama and the Great
Oh
Push,
my
where it's
God.
like the language you choose to talk to the admins with might therefore affect what they let you get away with. And I personally think it's really important for Blizzard to try really hard to not have that kind of language use be an important thing in determining what gets allowed and doesn't, but it's hard to avoid it. So anyways.
It's the Mirrors of Torment drama has been very spicy lately.
I don't think it should detract too much from the achievement of guilds 2 through 6 because like that boss is still I mean, for I think any guild that can reach 8% in P4, like which is what they would reach if they didn't Mirrors of Torment, the kill is imminent, right? It's a question of like
Yeah.
hours tops before you're going to kill the boss. But it does, I think, go to give even more prestige to Echo on this one, right? Like Echo, 3 days ahead of the competition, did it with the boss all the way at 19 instead of 11. Like, whew. I mean,
Eh,
this was a race that was close all the way to the last reset, and then Echo just hit the nitrous oxide. And
Max from Limit was talking about it a little bit on his stream, and he said that the final 2 days from Echo were two of the best days of raiding he's ever seen in like the modern race first era. And I would tend to agree, dude. Their consistency with how often they were just having deep P3 to P4 pulls just over the past couple like final couple of days of the Race World First was insane.
yeah, these bosses that have volatile, precise, difficult phase 1 and phase 2, when you're trying to prog P3, P4 on those kind of bosses,
Yep.
it's actually really about just getting a lot of pulls that go that deep, right? And that was something like Liquid weren't struggling with learning P3, P4. They were struggling with getting enough attempts that went that deep. So it's an interesting type of boss. The one that it kind of reminds me most of this expansion is actually Stone Legion Generals in terms of that part about it, at least, right? Where it's like it's literally just P1, P2 or so volatile.
Yeah, and then they started progging that like last overlap where they went from the 4 to 8 death sentences and like making sure they got it. And like we said, they only had to get that 4 to 8 death sentence transition one time. The moment they got it, the boss died.
All right. Well, I think that's about it for us, though, for this Race to World First. We'll be back probably, I guess, next Race to World First, maybe.
We're going to still be making weekly videos covering a bunch of other stuff. So if you've been enjoying the content, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Big TY.
Yeah, check out our podcast, Titan Forge Podcast, on all of your favorite podcast apps.
Ooh, we had Narcles on yesterday for the podcast
Yeah, Echo
as
Raider.
well. Yeah, cool. Anyways, we'll be back making another video probably next. It will come out on the YouTube channel next Saturday. We'll make it next Friday. But we will see you gamers later.